those sound settings. Oh, great. All right, so welcome to another live map making session, and I hope you're all having a good time. Here outside I see a few snowflakes falling. The winter is having a little comeback, a little late display of cold and sleet and snow. Hopefully that'll gonna be over soon. Connection problems, okay. So I can't see any connection problems on my side here at the moment. Oh, chat is coming through, pictures coming through. Oh, I don't see any problem from here at the moment. All right, let's go on and hope for the best that it's working. Okay, yeah, no connection issues in Arizona, so perhaps it's on Sue's side for the moment. Yeah, seems to be so good. Oh, sorry, not good, but better than on my side. So let's see, what do I want to do tonight? Well, let's first mention who I am and what I'm doing here. I'm Ralph Sherman of Profantasy Software, and I'm showing you a bit of our software tonight, with specifically some hex mapping and maps for simple hex crawls. I want to tinker with existing style, create something new from it for a game I'm currently running, and show you how to do that. Alright, if you do like our channel and our video sessions, please give us a like and a subscribe perhaps, and recommend it to other people. That would be wonderful. Alright, so what do I have on screen here? I've got a very old hex map style on screen. Basically, it was still CC3 when we introduced options to map in the first hex mapping, where you could easily draw on hex-shaped symbols on top of a hex grid and do things in a very old school type of map style, and with some simplification or some special tools from the symbols in Campaign Cartographer. This was the very first one I created, I think, for the annual at least, and it's been quite a while since I've dealt with this style. And I don't want to use this style out of the box, but instead I'm looking at recreating a map from a game that my game group is currently running, which uses a hex map for a so-called hexcrawl type of game. What is a hexcrawl? A hexcrawl is a game where the players basically have a map where they don't see or only have some basic information what's in the various places, and they go from hex to hex during the sessions, exploring the map, seeing what's there, encountering things from a master map that the GM has, where all the information is on. And that's how you play a hexcrawl game. And since I'm always changing my own stuff and creating my own things as well, it's of course handy to have a way to create your own maps or expand on an existing map. And as I always like to recreate the styles of the various maps I have in my games. And that is something I really enjoy. I'm going to take a stab at recreating a bit of this map style here to expand on the map. Perhaps make several copies for different groups, or as you can see, there's just a limited area. Of course, published material can only always provide that much material, and if you want to expand on that, you want to extend the map across the borders in the unmapped areas, and perhaps for that our hex style would be useful. All right, so let's see. And to do that, I'm going to start on something similar that I have. I have this hex style, which is the closest one, and it's very easy to use because it's all vector type symbols. So I'm going to play around with that and show you a bit of hex mapping while I'm at it. To start off, I'm going to create a new map. I'm going to click the new map icon, not save my current map here. Map type is overland. And then we do have the hex overland style here. As you can see, it's so old it doesn't even have a metric version. We started doing separate metric and imperial versions a little bit after starting with the annuals and some of the very early annuals which haven't gone a glow up or second look at. They still don't have a metric version. No matter though, it doesn't really matter for this map. We're just going to use abstract values for most of the time anyway. So I'm going to click next, and then I'm going to set my dimensions here. I'm going to do a small map. This is a hexcrawl where the players are mostly on foot, and therefore distances are limited, and you don't want such a huge area. And to get a feel for the general area, I'm going to start with a smaller map. And yeah, older than metric. When did they introduce metric? Something in the 1900s, no, in the 1800s in France, where they agreed on the original meter is in Paris, I think. All right, and then I'm going to do a next here, and I won't, because I want to change the background color. I'm going to go for something that matches the style here a little bit more. So I'm gonna go and choose bright yellow. I could go for the default beige up here, but then I might want to create a different kind of yellow color stripe anyway, and so I'm gonna stick with the 140 color here for the moment, though it's perhaps a little bit too greenish for the stuff I've got there. All right, and I could add a grid overlay here, but it's generally better to create the grid once you're in the finished map, even on the hex styles, because if you put the grid overlay on during in the new map template, the underlying point grid does not exactly match. So I'm going to click finish, and then I'm going to just call it new style here. I should probably mention from what game this style actually is, just for reference purposes and to give credit where credit is due. That's from the Cloud Empress game, specifically from one of the extensions to that, Land of the Dead and Land of the Living, I think, if I remember correctly. These are some indie type role-playing games, very nice game, very, how do you say, creative, great ideas in there, a little bit different, inspired by some of the Ghibli films like Princess and Mononoke, if you've heard of those. And those are some wonderful stuff in there. All right, I'm going to put a link in the description of the video once we are done. All right, so I've got the map in here, and what I don't want, what I definitely want to get rid of, is the black type of border. That's not what I want on this, so let's do that first. Let's have a quick look where stuff is on. Info, list, click the black stuff in here. Oh, we grabbed a lot more than that. So let's deselect the screen there, do it, and see we've got, that's the green outline of the map border, so on color 1, so that's on the common sheet. If there's no sheet in here like this means this is on the common sheet. Also a thing from the older styles, we don't put stuff on the common sheet anymore in the newer styles. And the sheet is the background, is on the background layer, that's fine. And then we've got the screen sheet, and that's the color 29, that's the beige. And then we've got the map border sheet, but also on the screen layer, the other stuff. Yeah, so let's remove stuff on the screen layer, which on the screen layer and the map border sheet. Let's have a look. So let's hide everything but the map border. And yes, that's all stuff I can safely delete, I think. Erase all of that. Just make sure combine not by color, not the green outline of the map board. Actually, yes, because that's on the common sheet. We would also grab that here. And while we're at it, we're going to fix this for this style, because as you can see, that's one of the problems putting on the common sheet. That's always visible, and even you hide everything but the map border, the common sheet is still visible and will get in the way, and you will select it. And that's why I normally prefer not to have any stuff on the common sheet. So let's move the sheet by color 1 and put that on the background sheet. Right, I'll show everything again. Good. See, we've got a little bit of color difference here between the actual screen and then the background. Gonna change that later if necessary. And that's fine. All right, so much for that. Also some stuff. I'm going to be working on the hex and square grid, so I'm going to unfreeze on that, and I can also safely show and delete all the stuff on the template layer, because in C3+ that's not necessary anymore. It used to be that any sheets that didn't have any stuff on it would get removed if you saved or if you closed the map. This is not the case anymore, and so we can delete the stuff that was entered on those older templates to make sure that all the sheets stayed around. And that's what you usually find on the template layer. There we go. Okay. Okay, sorry. Yes, I'm very much didn't look at the chat there. Sorry. I'm going to put up the cursor highlight. Coming up. Here we go. Third time's the charm. Exactly. There we go. All right. Where was I? I have deleted the stuff on the template layer. Now it's time to add an actual grid that we can work on. So let's set a color for our grid first. Let's take a quick look at our source map. We do actually have kind of a special grid here where you've got a broken piece in there, and then just the corners are solid. I'm going to try and replicate that in a bit, and then a pretty dark gray for the outlines and the labeling. So I'm going to set this to a dark gray. Let's do 246. Looks about right. And then I'm going to do draw, hex or square overlay. And I'm going to add a hex grid. It's going to be a horizontal one. It always confuses me a little bit. This is in CC3+'s nomenclature. This is a horizontal grid, though I would always interpret this because the lines go vertically. But it's because the white line in the hex is horizontal. That's why this is originally called a horizontal hex alignment. Grid size in the game there, I know that a grid is supposed to be 6 kilometers across, so we're going to do a 6-unit grid spacing just to accommodate that, and we're going to put in a labeling, and I'm going to put in a letter and number for the different dimensions. And then also add the snap grid. And then I'm going to apply. And there's my hex grid. As you can see, a standard campaign cartographer hex grid. And that's going to be fine for now. All right. And then I want to change some of the things. If you add a grid, everything is going to be grouped. So if I, for example, wanted to move something, or say I wanted to move the text labels, normally you have the groups button up here in the lower right corner to sector locked, And if you grab that, you'll grab everything that's in the group, and you can't move the text labels separately. I do want to change them and move them around a bit, but while not moving the hex grid, so I'm certainly do want to change that. For that, I'm gonna unlock my group, and then I'm gonna do a change layer on all text, entity type 2D text, and that grabs all the text labels on the map. Nothing else, because we haven't added any other text. So that's a good way to select all our text labels. Then do it. And I want to separate these out on a new layer, so it's easier to select them later when I have other text on the map. And we're gonna call that grid labels. There we go. And I also want to put them on their own sheet. So what I'm going to do is move to sheet. Now I can select their prior, because I had them selected just in the previous command. Do it. And I'm going to add a new text sheet, text grid. Move up. There we go. Note that putting them on their own sheet will pull them out of the group they were in, because groups are arranged by drawing order, and the sheets are ways apart in the drawing order, and so this will destroy that, basically take this selected stuff that you move to a different sheet out of the group. To see that, let's try the move command again on the grid after I've locked the group again, and now you can see that the text is not part of the group anymore, which is quite nice. Now I don't need to bother about the group. I don't want to use it separately anyway. What we do have is that the text itself is also not a group anymore. See, selecting anything here, just select that specific label. Might be what we want, might be not what we want. Say we wanted to have it all in a group to make it all work together. Then I could say tools, groups, group by entity type 2D text. Do it. And now it's all in the group again. See, selecting one of them will select all of them. And while I'm at it, I want to move these a little bit. So I'm gonna turn off my step for that. Gonna grab them. And I'm gonna move them just a little bit down. Want them on the lower edge of the hex. There we go. And we've placed them where they are. I can also change my text properties a bit. Change text properties. Do it. And I want them to be Century Gothic. Alright. Happy with the text. And I want to have it out of the way. I can now go and just hide the text grade sheet and show it again. Alright, now for the hex itself. I want to recreate this type of hex pattern with the gaps in the lines, and that's a bit more complicated. I thought about different ways to do this, but I think I've come up with quite a nice way. But for that I need a copy of the grid, because I'm going to break it apart and do stuff to it, and I'm going to destroy the grid, which I still need later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a grid of a copy of the grid, and I'm going to do this by moving this to a new sheet. Move to sheet, grab the grid group, do it, and I'm going to call this pattern grid. Move up. There we go. And to hide the other stuff for the moment, so it doesn't get in the way, I'm going to hide the sheet. See, do we still have a group? Yes, we do have still a group, everything grouped together. And what I'm now going to do is going to explode that. First explode should take care of the group, and then I can explode everything prior again. Because I want individual lines. Or it might not actually be necessary. Let's try it without breaking those paths apart. Let's just have a quick look. Info list, where it's located. It's still on hex square grid. I should probably move that to a different layer as well, so it doesn't get in the way. I'm going to do that. I'm going to change layer by color F2. Do it and add layer grid pattern. Okay, so first off I want to have this a white line, so it's more visible on printouts. The zero width line always a pain to print and see, especially on the rather soft color discrepancies or differences. So I do want a white line for these. I'm going to do change properties, select by layer grid pattern, D for do it, and then let's try a 0.1 line width, solid fill style, and that looks good like that, but it doesn't have the gap I'm looking for. You could of course go in and break that everywhere and stuff, but that's a hell of a lot of work. Other things I thought about, creating just a pattern of these 3 corner pieces and put them on the grid points, also pain. But then I thought about line styles. So I'm gonna create a specific line styles with these sizes in mind and play around with that. For that, because all these lines are exactly the same width, all on the hex, all regular hex, all the lines are the same width, and it's all just the hexes I want to do, so I know exactly how long my line segment's gonna be that I want a pattern on, and I can measure that by this info distance. Don't snap for a moment. You can see they are exactly on the corner here. The snaps from there to there is a width of 3.46408. Gonna try to keep that in mind, because that's the line segment length we do need for our line style. Now I'm gonna do a change line style. Oops, by select by layer, grid pattern, do it, and I do need a new line style. Let's call that X pattern. And my section, what did I say? 3.46408. And then I need a pattern. If I start here on one of the corners, I need about a third line, then a third gap, and then a third line again. So what I'm going to do, my gap could be probably a bit wider than a third. So oh, actually, line style section is the wrong way I put that. It should go into the pattern length here. That's what I'm looking at for the length here. What is here is the length of the individual sections per pattern. So I do need 0.3 to start, replace. I draw 0.3 or 30% of the full length. Then I'm going to do 0.4, extend that section. Now I'm drawing 40% of the full length, or skipping 40% of the full length. And then I'm drawing 30% of the full length again. And that altogether should add up to 1 to give me this pattern length. I do need to uncheck paper scale because I'm working in the drawing, not on paper. And I also don't want to scale to fit the ends. But I do want to draw first section. If I uncheck that, then this would all swap around. It would be skip, draw, skip instead of draw, skip, draw. Okay. Okay. And there we are. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. Gap in the center of each hex side. Might not. Oh, looks pretty close actually from the proportions of gap to line. I'm pretty happy with that. There we go. And with that, I do have my general hex outline here. If I show my grid now, you'll notice no. I think I did a little mistake. I did when I broke that grid apart. I didn't make a copy. I think I moved it to a sheet. Let's have a look. So yeah, there's nothing underneath there. So I did make a mistake and accidentally erased the original grid. But no matter, I can just redo this. I'm just gonna go on my grid sheet again, and I'm just gonna draw hex or square overlay again, keep all the settings, except I don't want a copy of the labels. Apply, and there we are again. So that's fine. So let's see if I hide this. It should look like before. Yeah, there we are. Easily fixed, because recreating the grid does exactly the same thing again. But I don't want this. I do have the fine lines in the gaps now everywhere. That's not how I want it to look. But I do need the grid actually for the hex symbols we're getting to in a moment, so they work. To do that, I can simply make them the same color as the background. So I'm just going to change color. Oh, that's not what. Yeah. That's one of the tricky things here. See, I select that, and I get all the narrow actual grid here, but I also get this path here with my new pattern, despite clicking the gap. But that gap is just a gap in the drawing of the line. The line is still there, and that's why when I click there, I also grab the whole outline of the hex. But I can just combine and with the logical and click here, and then this will be gone. Do it, and this is going to be, what did I say? I think 140. It's the color I had. There we go. All good, not visible anymore. And I think I can now freeze that hex square grid so I don't accidentally select it again. All right. So what is the secret, or what is special about the hex style? Basically what's special is some of the symbols here. First off, we do have basically kind of standard symbol, but which fit the hex. So I've got the city and town symbols here, for example, from the style. If I grab one of those and set it to in scale to my hex size, so 6 kilometers across or 6 units across, you'll see that these perfectly fit. Oops, only if I click the correct insertion point. Oh, I accidentally changed the size. See, those go in those hexes just fine. They match the borders. Nothing special about that. That's just a matter of limiting the hex to the hex borders when you draw it. But we've got these special water symbols. So if basically all of the colored hex things here. So if I grab one of the water coasts and click on hex, that's normal, nothing special. But I can go in and just keep the mouse pressed down, which I'm doing now, and draw like with a pen or something on there, and it will just fill the areas I move the mouse across with the symbols. I also have an eraser. I can go in, click, and erase those hexes again. Or if I have the water here, see, and I wanted to just draw some hills here instead, I can go in here and put there. And if I freeze everything here for a moment and do a list on the hex, no, I don't want that. You'll see that it's just the one symbol. It's not like the foothill symbol got placed on top of the water. It's replaced the water. Basically, any special hex symbols you draw across will replace the hex underneath, which saves a lot on map space and redraw times and stuff. So that is useful. That was a quick undo. And that's quite handy to draw areas here. See whether it does have sometimes a little bit of problems on the borders, but it's working fine here. So it's looking good. And there you can draw shapes like that and go in here, say you wanted some wastelands, and you just draw on here. And there's the area filled with the brown hexes. And if I want to set up or use these, I do need the grid. See, I'm now seeing the bright yellow grid here on top of the brown axis, something I might not want. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move the grid up in the list so it's underneath everything else, underneath the symbols, and it's just simply hidden by the hex symbols. I can look that up. Actually, it's pretty easy to check. If you look at the symbols, see the CA43, that's the 43rd month of the annuals. So that would be in the 4th year, though. It would be annual volume 4. So answer to the question in the chat from which annual this was. So that should be volume 4, 2010. So how old? Oh gosh, almost 16 years old now. All right, that's always a good way to check from which year your annual is. If you don't remember, take a look at the number, divide by 12 and round up, and you'll get to the volume number. Yeah, so, and thanks for the link. So how do I set these symbols up? First off, I do is in this style here. As you can see, it's very much plain color symbols. There's no big texturing in most of them. So I do, for a wasteland like this, I do want to get rid of the splotches in there. So what I can do, I can just, of course, create my own, but for an existing symbol, which is already very close to what I want, I can go in the symbol manager, go in here, grab the wastelands, edit, and just erase by color, F2, one of these here. I think I've frozen everything. Yep. Hexcrawl grid by color, F2. Save this, refresh, and there you all the interior patterns are gone. You can do that to the symbols you want, and then later save the map as a symbol catalog for your new style if you want to do that. Or you can, of course, make a copy of the original catalog. And I'll see if I open here, that's in Symbols, Maps, Fantasy Hacks, and just make a copy of that into your new style folder and then work on the symbols in there. But we might also want to change the settings. Say I wanted to remove the grid's specific functions from a symbol. So say I wanted to have a symbol that shows the same but doesn't let me draw stuff for whatever reason. So let's go in here, and do a clone, wastelands, no grid, and then go to options. And there we've got the option to uncheck or check whether this behaves like a hex symbol. This is, if I turn this off, this is for alignment. If it's supposed to go the other way around, like with a corner up, 90 degrees up, then you would check this. Well, these are horizontal ones, so this line is unchecked. If I uncheck this symbol here and then use that symbol, since no grid, see, it works, still works on the grid. Well, the symbol itself has not changed here, but I can't press and draw. It simply doesn't work anymore. So I could put in individual ones, but that makes it a lot more complicated actually. But if you want to work on a grid symbol and use that as a basis and turn off the grid function, that's how you do it. Same way, if you draw a symbol, a new one in your texture or something, then you turn this function on to turn it into a hex symbol. I do want to create a little symbol here, like if I take a look at our style here, let's go here, these are the little town symbols. They are nice and simple, and I want to add these to the map. So I'm gonna grab what I do in instances like that, I usually draw these on the maps first, so it's easy, so you see how they look, and then turn them into a symbol. So let's move into one of our hexes. I'm going to turn off snap for that. And let's put everything on the symbol definition, because it's going to turn into symbol definition anyway. And I'm going to work on the symbols, though that doesn't really matter. Symbols. This is done solid, that's fine. So let's just add a few little building symbols. Now we could go, should we make this a little bit easier, just use the sharp corners, or should we try the rounded corners? Would you like me to make these into nice little rounded corners, or are we fine with the sharp corners? Let me know in the chat. Need to wait a little bit for the delay. Hoping we're still there. Yes, of course, rounded corners. Yes, that's what I would expect from my viewers. Thank you very much. So for that, we do need to use trim functions. Tools. Now I have to find stuff myself again. Draw. No, I think it's an edit. Yeah, trims. There we are, and that would be a fillet. I think is what we're looking for. Chamfers. I think the straight corners and the fillet is the one I want. Let's give it a look, but I do need to explode these symbols first. Explode. Only have the white lines here. Let's for the moment make them into something that's more visible. Otherwise, you won't see anything on screen. So it's in the purple. That should be better. And now I'm gonna draw, edit, trims, fillet, and trim. First entity. No, I think, yeah, The only problem is that this is the selection color, so I don't see what I'm selecting. And now I need a radius of how long this is supposed to be, and this is 0.1, the width of this line, so let's say 0.3, and there you can see the size now, but it does make the fillet into white, which is unpractical. So what I'm gonna change the color. Change color from color, so I can see the selection to a, what do we do? Let's just use a dark green. That's probably easiest. There we go. Then I'm gonna use this as the current properties, so my fillets look the same. Trims, fillet, and trim. Fillet only means it will only put in the radius, the rounded edge in there. With fillet and trim, it will also trim the lines to the end of that rounded corner. So fillet and trim. Yeah, right click. Oh, but this is too large, I think. Is it? Oh. Let's make it 0.2. There we go. And we do have to do this on all our entities, corner by corner. It would be nice if we can just, might have been a macro for that at some point, for doing this on a whole rectangle, but I don't remember right now. It's for these few pieces. It's also quick and no problem to do that. So, and I know it used to be that you needed to multipoly these. And it was a bit of a pain. Well, multipolys behave in sometimes in certain unexpected ways. So I'm going to look whether our newer line to path function works on this actually. Yes, it does. Excellent. Excellent. There we go. There we are. And if we take a closer look at the corner, yeah, let's see. See, this is not a perfect circle, part of a circle anymore. You see the corners. That's because, I don't know, your line to path function converts the arcs and circles into paths. This is, if you zoom in very far, you will see the corners, but you usually don't need to, and that will make the symbol behave much more easily, much better. So let's turn all the color into white again. Color white is 15. There we go. And now I'm disconnected. Damn it. Now it's reconnected. I hope we're doing fine. Let me know whether you can hear me again. I certainly... Okay, thank you very much. That's good. I had a short disconnection there. All right, thank you. A question from Mikea, whether I've done a map in this style to the map in Red Dead Redemption 2. I actually don't know that style. I never seen, though it's on that game is on my wish list. I've never actually seen the map. Please point me to a screenshot or something of that, and I'll have a look. Or I can actually just Google it. I guess I'll find something. But if you have a nice image of the map, do point me there, and I'll take a look whether that's possible to recreate. All right, so I could do the outline as a sheet effect. That's probably best. That makes everything else a bit easier, adjustable and stuff. So what I'm gonna do is I'm first gonna do this as a symbol. I'm turn on snap again. So I'm gonna say symbols, define symbol. I select all the objects that should be in my symbol, say do it. And I'm gonna just roll this Cloud Empress here with the prefix, and then put in name village 1. Center origin is fine. That way I can select the no, that's one of the, yeah, that's always something that has been on my wish list for ages, that I can not pick a fixed origin, but say create and then choose the origin. And so I can then pick the center of the hex as the origin for that symbol. That's always a bit of a pet peeve of mine, that the define new symbol dialog doesn't allow me to do that, but that's just a minor thing for most people. So I'm gonna click OK. And now I do have my symbol in here. There we go. And I'm gonna click options. I make it one of a collection just because I might create more villages, and then I can have a random selection from a variety of different layouts. And I want to put them on my own, on their own sheet, so I can apply a special sheet effect on that. Symbols, settlement. I'm not going to turn on the hex symbol because then I don't want to draw villages all across an area of hexes. All good. And then I'm gonna do edit. And I'm gonna need to change my view color so I can actually see the symbol. So I'm gonna turn it to dark green, and now I can see my symbol probably. And I want to move it so it does, the new origin is always there where I want it to be in relative to the hex around it. For that, I'm just gonna do move, do it from its old, this is the center, and if I check my symbol here, symbol origin, that's about where I want to place it. Oh, actually, no, I should. No, what I should do it differently because I'm not sure where my origin point is here on the map. Or should be in the center. I'm gonna select everything to move, choose the point where I want the origin to be there, and then move it to 0, 0, and that way it's relative to the center point. That's how it should be. There we go. And then I'm going to grab my symbol. Ooh. The only thing is it doesn't match my general hex style now because I'm a symbol scale 6, but that's fine. I'm just going to put it to 1 here more, and then it's going to be fine. And now I can just click. I might also want to, I could just turn it 180 degrees. There we are. There's my symbols on the map. And now I can, it was go on their own special sheet, and because that wasn't defined at the map, that it got added at the end. So we're going to move that up just above the normal symbols, and we're going to add a sheet effect, an auto glow, black, or should we go for the same 246 we have for the, no, we're going to make it just a very dark gray. And outline should be about the same as the hex border, width, range, and no blur. This should be map units is correct, but I do want 100% opacity. Okay, okay. Oh, but no, that's a bit much. I think my it's true. It's not 0.3 is actually the width of the hex lines. It's actually 0.1. And therefore, we need to make this narrower. There we are, and that's much better. Could make it a little bit smaller, perhaps. It does take up a little bit much. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in there, select this, and scale, say by 0.9. It looks fine. There we go. Nice thing is we scale it, but it's the symbol, or not the effect. The outline width remains the same width. And if we want to go a little bit more fancy, we could do stuff like add a little bit of a drop shadow with, say, 0.2, a 35% opacity, and no blur radius in map units. Move that up. And we have a nice little fancy drop shadow on our village symbols. All right, and there we are. I'm still thinking perhaps the outline is a little bit too narrow. Let's make that a little bit stronger. Let's make the outline 0.15 and the drop shadow 0.3. Yes, that's better. I think those widths fit together nicely. And there we've got the beautiful little village symbols. And I would go on and create a few more. So I've got some variations and you could randomly select them. And the other thing I want to add, there's my original map drawing tools. So let's see, I'm going to check the drawing style here. There we go. We've got a river. Let's have a look at our river default. No, not save the setting at this point. There we are. That's the road actually. Where's my default river? Up there. If I take a look at the original, it's actually not in drawn in a smooth line, but in sharp corners. So if I wanted to recreate that, I can just go in options and make this straight. Let's have a look how this looks. Oh, that's from the previous command. I didn't properly end that. And so I can go in here and just oh, it's just way too wide, of course. Let's have a look. How wide is it? 4. So let's change the line width. Oops, not that. To 0.4. Or prior, perhaps 1. A little bit too wide. Let's make it 0.6. There we are. We want it perhaps a little bit not quite as dark, so we've got this same color here. Let's see, what is my color here? Oh, that takes me to the grid. But we can check this. Actually, we are gonna just go in the properties 60, I guess it's about. Okay, adjustment does double check, cancel, properties, fill satisfied, color 60, it's down here. And that's 62, I guess, is the brighter version of the water rivers. And we're gonna make the, I'm working on the actual, the same style here, which is probably not the best thing to do. Normally I would create a copy of the style by making a copy of the drawing tools folder and renaming it and then working on that. But we're running out of time here, so I'm just going to do this here for the moment. It's always easy to undo that. I'm going to, in properties, going to do the line width 0.4. And I could actually, to make this fit better, make it do it as a fraction of the map border. So normally we have a 1000, but here we have a 100 width. So if you want to get 0.4 as a fraction of 100, yeah, that should be it. So you can change that by check that better by changing the sample width. Okay, and if we do this now, no, the color is a little bit too bright. So I'm going to go in there again and change the property to 61. So check. Yep, that looks right. That's the same color as the hex. So we're going to erase these and change the color of our river to 61. There we are. And that's how we build our new style here. And we can go in for here. I would go in and check the labels. Actually, the water here has some kind of a little bit of an outline. Water rivers, let's have a look. I don't think I actually need or want any effects on that. And there we are. And from here I would go on and create the various tools, create a selection of hex symbols that fit my style. I don't need much for that in this style here. What are the drawing tools? We've got the height contours here and these little brown lines. I will create a drawing tool for that. Something for this wall or cliff. This is actually a cliff line here, the gray. And see these a little bit of various village symbols. That is a camp symbol. All these are easy to do. That is a wall drawing tool. And if I go on the GM map, then I would do the different colors. This is just basically you can do just one hex symbol and then do it vari-color. Then you can just pick the color and draw the area with the hex tools. Then something a little bit more elaborate perhaps are these inner city blocks, but those are easily done as hex symbols as well. Also that would work nicely. And I see myself creating a style for that in quite a short time actually. That should work quite nicely. Perhaps I'm going to continue that in another video session if that is of interest. It won't bring that much new I guess, but it might be nice to see the full effect here. We do have a sheet effect here on, I think this is on the normal symbols or what, no, which sheet effect is this on? Is that on, no, that's probably the terrain land features. Yeah, that's the land features I guess, or is it? Looks like a drop shadow. No, it's on the land sheet here. Let's turn that off. No, I do need to check. It's the grid sheet. Too much stuff selected. Let's hide the grid. Info list on this here. No, it's just the symbols sheet. Yeah, that's why it does have these look there. Turn that off to just get the brown wasteland area. Okay, contour lines. Do I have a time? No, I'm sorry. I'm out of time here. I gotta stop the session for now. I might do it in another session. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed my little excursion into hex style. It's mostly been showing off the actual grid functions and how to create hex symbols and how that all works together. And that might be something not everybody is using very often, so I hope it is interesting, if not useful, but it's certainly nice for me to refresh the hex drawing style options in my mind, since I haven't worked with it for a while as well. Thank you very much. Yes, as Remy said, horrible session, especially because there was no cat. No, she's sleeping in the other room, so... no answer today. All the best. Thank you very much. And see you again next week. All the best. Bye-bye.